everyone, I'm Adrienne Everheart, your feminine energy dating, relationship, and lifestyle coach. I'm so honored to share this interview. Today, Dr. Diana and I discussed how powerful women, successful women, how do we go about finding a man that meets us on that similar place in life? And what if you can't find a man who makes as much money as you do, or has achieved, or has the same ambition or goals as you? How do you really unzip your heart and fall in love, especially when you have a long list of must-haves and you're not finding a lot of men that meet up with your requirements? I have also a few bonuses in this episode of my podcast and video podcast, and that's Dr. Diana offers a coaching session with one of her coaches. You will get a free 40-minute coaching session. You have to fill out the form below in the link and simply say, Adrienne sent me. When you say that, you're guaranteed a spot with one of Dr. Diana's coaches, and you can get your own expert advice. In this episode of this podcast is for women, I have Dr. Diana Kirschner. She is an author. She has a background in psychology. She has had a PBS special. So many wonderful things she has produced and created to help powerful dynamite women just like you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We talk about so many amazing things. Let's get started. So hi there, Dr. Diana Kirschner. Thank you so much for being on my podcast today. We had discussed previously we were going to talk about success scaring men away.
Yes.
And I'd love to know your thoughts about this.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be with you, Adrienne. I'm very excited about being on your podcast. And, there is a real snafu with being super successful or, having an advanced degree or being a professional woman, being an entrepreneur, and then having to relate in the love domain. So, there are definite challenges. There are definite challenges. And it's hard enough for every woman. It's every single woman
Yeah.
out there dating. It is hard enough.
Yeah. And I have a lot of powerful dynamite women who are, really high earners, overachievers. They go after what they want in life. Nothing stops them. And so often they are, sometimes even supermodels, like, beautiful actresses.
Gorgeous. Yes. Gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous
Yes.
women and successful. And they have a really difficult time finding that socioeconomic match and feeling like they're with a man that is somewhere, balancing their energy. It's a really difficult thing. Again, such powerful dynamite women. I sometimes feel like, men, they can't compete with that. It's just different in the man's world. I'm just really curious what you think about that.
Well, men quite often feel very intimidated by a successful woman. And there's a little bit of a fear factor. It's a fear factor, I can't measure up. There's a fear factor like I can't relate to her, a fear factor like I can't access her feminine, there's no way for me to win her over. And so this poses a challenge. Also, it's difficult to find men who are on your level. When you're very successful, it's not so easy to find a man who talks your talk and walks your walk, who really gets you, who brings a lot to the table. You really need to have a man who brings a lot to the table. It's not a matter of settling. You're not a settler. So,
and my question is, do those men, do they also want a high achieving woman?
Well, let me tell you what the research shows. The research is very, very clear about this. And that is that successful men actually want to be with successful women. Period. End of story. There was earlier research that was very scary to a lot of women because it indicated they would rather marry a secretary rather than someone who's on their level. But that research has been debunked, and particularly now, they want someone who can be on their level, who brings something to the table, in terms of what she's providing. in terms of creativity, stimulation, socioeconomic status, intelligent conversations, creative, empowered fun in the world, right? It's a whole different level of creativity and having this amazing adventure in the world that you can have with people who are self-empowered. They're really self-empowered. So you're self-empowered as a woman. You want a self-empowered guy, a really great self-empowered guy. And that means he's really living his dream. He's got it going on.
Yeah.
It going on.
Now, I talk a lot about how you and our work lines up in a lot of different places, particularly you've got to trust your feelings. You have to find what you feel. That's the most important thing. Being authentic, being honest. And ultimately, a man needs to feel that he makes you happy and he feels really good when he's around you. So let's say you are a powerful dynamite woman and you have a certain income that you're making, but you find yourself attracted to and drawn to a man who meets you on a lot of other needs and levels, but financially he's not where you're at. And I'm not talking about, I guess we should really talk about both ends of the spectrum, because there's the man who has nothing going for him, who's drawn to the powerful dynamite woman. And then there's the man who's like, I've just kind of floundered around in life, but I don't have debt. I have a good job, but I'm not where you're at.
Right.
And how do we navigate that? Or what do you suggest for women when it comes to balancing and letting that man still feel like he can be a provider?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot to unpack in what you just said.
Yes. Sorry.
But we will, I do want to get back to the whole understanding that men need to feel like they can make you happy. That's very, very important. But I want to address this whole issue of being with somebody who's not on your level financially or work-wise. And I talk about the importance of three criteria in selecting someone, right? Number one, is he crazy about you, right? He's got to be crazy about you. He's got to recognize that you're unique. There's nobody like you, he's got to know that. Number two, is he willing to grow? Because there's no perfect guy. There's absolutely no perfect guy.
True.
Right?
It's true. You evolve together.
Yes. A lot of successful women think, oh my God, I'm going to find the perfect guy. It's going to be amazing. Like I'm going to find the perfect job. Well, the thing is, it's easier to find a perfect job than a perfect guy. And so what you want is a guy who's willing to grow. Now, when he's crazy about you and willing to grow, what happens? Even if he's not perfect in the beginning, let's say, he's got a nice job, but he's not where you would like him to be. You would be able to watch him grow, help him grow, create that business he's always dreamed of, be a partner with you in terms of being someone who you can also mentor as they mentor you. Now, he's going to bring things to the table where he will mentor you. He may be, better in bed. He may be.
Yeah.
He may be, have a brighter emotional IQ. He will bring things to the table. If he's crazy about you and willing to grow, you can have an amazing guy, absolutely amazing guy, because he respects what you're doing, right? He will respect what you're doing, but at the same time, he's going to absolutely be able to develop in such a way that you will respect him. You will respect him, right? And he will get better and better and better over time. The third criteria is being on the same wavelength, right? You do have to have your commonality. It has to have some chemistry. It doesn't have to be crazy over the top, but at least there has to be some chemistry. He's got to be able to be as bright as you, have intelligent conversations, have similar values and goals, right? So I call that meeting the soulmate basics. He's got to meet the soulmate basics, right? And when you find a guy like that, it's absolutely incredible, you know. And I'll give you an example, and this was written up in the New York Times. It's a case of mine. When I did my PBS show on finding love, the woman who asked for the donations to PBS came to me and she said, you know, I'm in my 50s. I've never been married. I've achieved a lot. I've done all these things, you know, living my dream, you know, in terms of my career. But, you know, I've never really found the great love of my life. And she said to me, and I'm going to be asking people to send in money for your show, to buy your show, you know, the DVD. And I need to experience your approach. So within 60 days, we found her the great love of her life. Her name was Vigilante. It was written up in the New York Times. And I got to attend the wedding, which was like a fairy tale. I'm not kidding. I mean, they were all singing these show tunes from you know, they're totally into music. This her particular group of friends, and her husband also, and so they were singing. It was just so darling and amazing.
And so I'm wondering if when something like that happens, because I'm big on getting clarity, getting women to get very clear, very specific. To follow up to that, I occasionally have a couple of clients that I'm thinking of right now that they will find a man who looks good on paper, has everything they want. They feel no connection.
Yes.
Just don't feel connection.
That's the problem. Yes. Yeah. Well, what happened in this particular situation is he was crazy about her, willing to grow, and meeting the basics, meeting those soulmate basics. And, you know, initially she didn't know, because a lot of the work that we do, I work with 8 coaches who are trained by me, and what we do is we have people date 3 guys at the same time. You don't get involved sexually, a little kissing, a little canoodling, but you can compare and contrast. Now, the interesting thing about this guy is that even though he had all 3 criteria, he was not perfect looking.
So rarely are they ever.
Yes, he was not perfect looking, you know, in terms of her type, you know, the type that she would normally have dated. And he, you know, so there are things you have to kind of give the person some time, you know. So if initially you're not connecting, you want to just give it some time. Give it
How
some
much time? How much time before, you know, they say, I don't want to lead the guy on?
Yeah. Well, at least I would say a month or 2 of dating. You want to try to see him in his element, right? Like you see him giving a talk, or you see him playing in his band at night, or you see him. So you see things that are turning you on. You want to make a decision to love someone who is great for you. You want to make that decision. So there are ways to do that. And if there is at least some little chemistry that could come brewing out, it works. It's really great. In fact, you can make an affirmation. You can make an affirmation. You say, I find amazing chemistry with Joe. In a surprising way. I find the most incredible chemistry with Joe, right? Or I'm turned on to Joe, right? It's like a decision, right?
This is a decision. And, you know, you're really kind of blowing my mind here for a minute, because I'm thinking back to the man I'm married to now. And in my dating protocols, I call that the non-applicable or non-applicable man. And he's a man that everything is working out. He's crazy for you. He's coming around. He wants to date you. You're there. You have this good connection, but you're just like not into him. He's the non-applicable man. Date him anyway. And you are just genius with this idea of seeing him in his element. And I think this is going to be a huge game changer for a lot of my clients, because with my husband, He wasn't my husband yet. We were just dating, but I was just not interested. And I'd broken things off with him,
Mm-hmm.
but he was going to be on a television show speaking about what he does for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, tune into the show. I tuned in and I was like, what is wrong with me? Why? This guy is brilliant. He's amazing. What's wrong with me? And from that point, everything changed. How I felt. So true.
Exactly. It changes and it can open up in an instant. It can open up in an instant. And when you make that decision to see if it can open up in an instant with a man, you open the door to the possibility, right? And it's mind-blowing how that can fall into place, right? It's mind-blowing. It's really incredible. The other thing that's really powerful is to, go to a party with somebody like that, right? Who's like great, but you're not attracted to him, and watch him interact with other women. I mean, you don't want someone who's like being too flirtatious,
Sure.
but just watch
Sure.
him talk to other women and imagine if he was with somebody else.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you see him very differently.
I'm feeling jealous already or protective or something. Just imagining. But it is so true. We put ourselves in these sort of very canned social situations in order to meet a man and fall in love. And it's just not going to happen. I mean, it can, but if you need that little extra push, and I always tell my clients, it's really not the same when you're in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about how this person treats you, how they line up with their life. And you're in your second life now. You're 50 and beyond, or you're nearing 50. You're in your second life. This is where you get to have a new type of adventure with a person, go in a different direction. It's not about who's the hottest, who, checks all the, checklist for my, DNA requirements for a partner.
Right.
About something different. So I think I love the idea of an affirmation, watching him speak to other women, seeing him in his element, making a date about that. These are really fantastic tips. I know my listeners are really going to appreciate this, Dr. Diana.
Well, and I'll tell you another thing that's really powerful is to kind of turn yourself on before you have a date with him. The most important person to be turned on is you, and you can turn yourself on by actually wearing very sexy lingerie. So you're kind of feeling it. You're feeling like, really attractive, and you're kind of open. So your vibe is sexy and sensual, right? So that changes a lot of the equation. And again, you could find really amazing chemistry. And if you make that decision, you can have it all if it's there. If it's there. It's not always there. You can't just control it through your decision. But if the possibility is there with this guy, and you make the decision to really open up the floodgates, if you can, it's amazing how many times that really works out great. And I want to add that the guy gets hotter and hotter and hotter over time. I've never been more turned on to my husband than I am now.
That's very true. They grow on you. They continue to grow and evolve with you. And that is a really amazing point to also mention, is that where you start with, it's like a small ember burning.
Yes.
Because I feel the same way about my husband. Sometimes I'm just like, how did I end up with this guy? Other times I'm feeling like, I'm not so sure, and you just see how you've evolved.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. So let's go back to our high earning, high powerful, overachieving woman. And, she's driving a beautiful SUV. He's driving a Honda Accord. No offense to anyone who drives Honda Accords. But, two different places in life. He's paying a large alimony for his children, or, maybe he's not ever been a high achiever. Some people are not. And, they have a wonderful place. Everyone has a wonderful place in this world. Everyone is of value. But specifically, that woman She wants to find someone who's her match, and she's not really finding it on paper. He's got a lot of other qualities. So she can actually use affirmations. She can use some other techniques. But what if the man just feels, she senses, he makes comments, he says, oh, that's a designer bag, or oh, you like those, red heeled shoes, the expensive ones, or oh, you like to vacation in all these high-end places. He feels insecure about it. What does she do with this sort of man?
Well, then it begs the question of criteria number 3. Remember, I said meets the soulmate basics. So if he's too threatened, it's not going to work. In other words, we need someone who's crazy about her and willing to grow. In other words, if he's crazy about her, he thinks that what she's doing is quite interesting and amazing. So when he says you're wearing those red shoes, he's like, wow. He's like, you know what I'm saying? He's appreciating you. We need somebody who's appreciating you. If the person's appreciating you, there can be really great marriages where there is a disparity in income and profession. We have seen that also, where the woman decides, you know what? I've never had such great sex in my life. That's more important to me than him being CEO of a company. I feel alive with him. I feel beautiful. I feel amazing, right? So I can just make myself happy, right? I will just make myself happy. And you can have a really, really beautiful marriage like that. There's no reason to need anybody who's bringing in a lot of money, whatever, because you're already doing it. So it doesn't even matter. What you need is happiness. What you need is the ability to be in the moment and not be in your head and driving everything forward all the time because you're the smartest person around you and you're driving it all forward. But, it leaves your body a bit dry and unhappy and sad. And so what you really need is this aliveness, this being able to be present, being able to feel your body, to feel sensual, to feel sexual, to have adventures in life that really turn you on all the different ways, right?
Yeah.
And it's not important if it doesn't look on paper like what you're supposed to have. It's not important. What's important is your happiness. That is really, really it.
Absolutely. And you're giving yourself this chance. You're almost going into it knowing it's not going to feel this perfect way, in the delusional way it felt when I was in my 20s.
Right.
Because love really is crazy at that point, in our lives, like our hormones and our chemistry. Now, I just want to share with everyone, you have a background in psychology. You've had a special on public television. You also have this amazing book, Love in 90 Days. I mean, A to Z, everything a woman needs to know.
It's true. I put it all in there.
Is in this book. You made me want to quit my writing career when I read this, because I was like, how can I? This is brilliant. This is great stuff. And I really recommend, even if you feel like you already know everything, because a lot of us do, there's still so much to learn, so much. I just have to really tell you, this book is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you.
You want to tell us a little bit about love?
Well, I'll tell you, I have decades and decades of experience in studying love. And the reason, of course, I studied love is because I couldn't figure out how to get it, right? So, from years ago, but I have decades of experience in terms of looking at the research on what makes love work, and also tens of thousands of clinical hours of helping single women, because I have a team of 8 coaches that work with women all over the world, and I supervise them. And so I gathered really a lot of key material, key insights, key tips, and I basically put them all in the book, because you can do it. If you decide that you are going to create love in 90 days, you can do it. You can actually do it. And that book tells you how. It really does.
Yeah. And I love the little, that little bolded parts that have a little warning, we're going along, everything's great. Oh, by the way, I'm just like, yes,
Mhm.
this is where we make that wrong turn. We think that we're going in the right direction. And I don't know whether it's we can be too trusting or just we get in love, we start following our heart and we lose our mind. But I really recommend anyone listening, please definitely go check out your website, look into your coaches. You have so much to offer the single woman. If you could offer my listeners, you've already given us so much great advice, but if you could offer us one big takeaway from Love in 90 Days, what would you want to share?
It's that no matter what has happened in your life, no matter how bad your childhood was, if you were unwanted or abused or emotionally abandoned, no matter what has happened in your dating life, in your love life, bad marriages, narcissists, cheating, betrayals, etc., and no matter how old you are, you can create incredible love,
Mhm.
period. You can create incredible love. We've seen it time and time again. We know this.
Yes, there really is someone out there for everyone, if not several someone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
love that. Um, I'd love to go over a couple of questions I get asked a lot
sure.
by my listeners. Um, a big one is it never fails. I will receive a lovely email or message from a woman who tells me of a fantastic love story she's having with a man, but he recently broke things off with her out of the blue. And I find out that they live 700 miles apart and they've only met twice.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel about this type of relationship? Long distance or imaginary? What do you make?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that I call the fantasy deadly dating pattern, right? So it's like a fantasy. It's very easy to fantasize about someone who's not around. Very, very easy. And it's very difficult to make a long distance relationship work. It can be done, but it's very difficult. And you have to be with someone who's willing to do some heavy lifting. That is, they're going to travel to you. They're going to come after you, because they're crazy about you, willing to grow, meeting the soulmate basics. They're going to go after you in a good way.
Yeah.
People in a distant relationship are scammers, right? So you have
Time.
to be aware of that, where the scamming industry is quite brilliant. Actually, they will make it seem like they're madly in love with you, and they make themselves seem real.
Yeah,
We have saved some women in our coaching program from
absolutely.
forking over a lot of money,
Yeah.
and but they make it seem like it's true love, but they can't see you. And a tip off often is that they're out of the country or very far away.
Yeah.
But they love you, they're going to be with you, they want to marry you.
Yes.
And let
And
me tell
so,
you, no
mhm,
matter how smart you are, you can fall for this.
you sure can. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
And I have had brilliant women who they were in what I call love starved.
Yes.
And you have someone come along and tell you these wonderful things. And I don't really know what it is about technology or having someone to email or getting a message from someone that really hits those dopamine sectors in our brain a lot differently.
Exactly.
But it's like a wonderful drug. And a lot of women do fall for this. I'm glad you cleared that up and we
Yeah.
talked about that, because a man should never, ever, ever, ever ask you for money unless
Yes.
you're in a relationship and you're committed and he says, hey, I just need $10 to tip the valet. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And especially if you're successful, you're out there. They can Google you. It's
Yeah.
easy to establish who you are. All you do is a reverse, even if you're not giving your name, they do a reverse image scan on your photos.
Mm.
They know exactly who you are.
Right.
Make no mistake about it. They know that you have money. They know, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean to scare people, but it's something that it's important to be aware of. And it's easy to spot them. You can see these huge red flags. I have a bunch of them in the book,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And what are your feelings on heartbreak? Because for a relationship to begin, it means the relationship had ended. And for me, I was in a place where I had really put this man on a pedestal and was so in love with him. He had told me so many wonderful things, and it just felt this intense chemistry. And then he just walked over one day and said, I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. And I mean, I was just devastated, and I didn't know what to do with my heartbreak. This is why I actually became a coach, is I didn't have a lot of resources other than grief counseling about how to get over heartbreak. And I would go on dates with other men, and they wouldn't smell, they wouldn't look like my guy. And I would just come home and cry myself to sleep. So do you have any advice for women that are going through heartbreak?
Absolutely. Well, we have a whole chapter on this in the book. The poet said, even as love crowns you, so shall it crucify you. There's nothing more painful than heartbreak. There's nothing more painful. I do have to say that I really admire the courage of anyone who just keeps going, and you really have to keep going no matter what. Now, it's very important that you make some changes if you're in heartbreak. Some things that really help: meditation, yoga, exercise, right? Taking care of yourself, spending time with loving friends. Research shows that if you go to a loving friend and pour your heart out while they listen, it actually creates opioids, which in the brain, which make you feel better.
Wonderful.
Really make you feel better. Isn't that something?
That's beautiful.
Also, keep your schedule full, and do not isolate. In other words, the thing is you want to isolate. You feel so depressed. You want to just isolate, eat your ice cream on the couch, watch the, binge watch TV, movies. No isolating. I want your calendar filled in every day. There's something. You're going to have dinner with your friend. You're going to visit your mother. Your mother's not too negative. You're going to go to the gym. You're going to, you've got to
but don't
have
you feel
the schedule filled.
Don't you feel though that we need like a little bit of time to grieve? I mean, I always tell everyone to set aside some time to grieve, and especially the first 2 weeks, because those are really almost like the most intense.
Yeah, no, it is.
Don't make it
to do that. Yeah, it is very good to do that. And you will find that if you do meditate or take some prayer or yoga, do some prayer or take some yoga classes, you'll find that coming right up. There'll be grief. As you quiet the mind, you'll have waves of grief that will come up, and you just welcome them. You want to welcome them. Grief comes in waves, because it's going to pass. If you understand it's a wave, it's going to pass. So you welcome it. It's okay.
You bring up a very good point in that you want to welcome it, because it's when we resist it and we say, oh, I can't think about him. I can't remember how wonderful. And you start replaying conversations and start replaying exact things, how they unfolded. And I always tell my clients, your brain can't solve an emotional issue. It can't solve your heartbreak. It'll try. But what do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I love that the way you say this, that the brain can't solve an emotional issue. It's so true. It's so true. And successful women are always trying to fix everything, where you're supposed to know how to fix everything and blah 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 blah. And it can't be fixed. It just has to be felt. You want to just let those waves go through you, knowing they're going to subside, even though you feel like you want to die. It's that bad. It's like, I don't even want to live with this pain. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. And go out to your next.
One foot in front of the other. Just keep going. Just keep going. Because really, it does you do cross this point in heartbreak where you're not stigmatizing it. You understand that I'm going to feel pain. This is going to feel terrible, and I have to embrace it. If I resist it, it's going to hang out even longer. If I try to fix it, it's unfixable. I can't fix a person loving me. And so often women will say, well, what can I do to make him come back? What do you say to a woman who they don't care, They just
Okay,
bring
so I
back
can
my
tell
happy.
you how to optimize the potential that he will come back right now.
Okay.
Here's how to do it. Develop yourself. In other words, work on yourself. We call this the diamond self-work. We have the women give themselves nicknames like courageous, irresistible goddess of light, or saucy minx, vivacious vixen,
I love these.
beloved mighty Isis, right? Work on creating your diamond self. You work on loving yourself up. You dress the part of, your nickname. You want to be the goddess of light and love. You dress the part. You get like, maybe a little necklace like this and this kind of thing. You make yourself the best you can be. And then you can have coffee with him. Only you're your diamond self, and he can see what he's missing. You can go back and have coffee with him and just do some closure. And a lot of this self-love is enhanced if you do, really do it consistently, really consistently. And dating helps too. So you're dating other guys, so he can smell that when he has.
Oh yeah. When he looks at you, he knows.
I can tell.
I had a client of mine tell me about you, and I looked into you, not too long ago, and I was like, this is great. And you also have a book called Finding Your Diamond Self.
It's the Diamond Self Secret. It's the Diamond Self Secret. Yeah, if you guys want to do that work, you would love the Diamond Self Secret. It's only available as an ebook. Okay. On Amazon, but yes, pick up the Diamond Self Secret. But there's also in this book you have working with heartbreak and diamond self work also.
And again, I wasn't familiar with your work, but I get all of my girls to call themselves Diamond Girls.
I love it.
Diamond Girls, and there's that beautiful song, Diamond Girl, and the lyrics of that song, it's everything is what that man wants. That beautiful diamond, sparkling, shining, rare. You're Diamond Girl. So I love Diamond Self, Diamond Girl. We are sisters in this, me and you, Dr. Diana. So I think that this has been incredibly helpful. So much. I mean, we've covered so much in this podcast. I'd love to have you back. And all of my listeners, if you'd love to hear more from Dr. Diana, please leave us a comment below. Now, Dr. Diana, is there anything else that you want to leave us with before we go?
Well, the happiest time of your life is when you've actually done your thing creatively and you create love. It just creates such an amazing time in your life. I mean, it is such a joy, such a bliss. You will be shocked. You will be shocked at how happy you can be.
Yeah.
And
so true.
That's the thing. You will be shocked. You got to go for it.
Yeah, it really is a shocked feeling. I remember feeling that and it feeling totally unexpected, new, a little bit scary, but so right, so natural. So well said.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being on my podcast today.
Oh, it was a joy. Thank you so much, Adrienne.
You're welcome. I hope to have you back again soon.